Chapter 13 of Her Love from Above. Madison's Charade. Jenny placed the final dishes on the table as Charlie and Claire entered the meeting room through the outside door. After finding the heirlooms in the sock beneath Claire's pillow, he decided to take a walk to calm down so he wouldn't explode upon seeing his cousin, which would spoil their plan to prove she was the thief. "I hear you had a bit of adventure today," Jenny said, stepping back to admire her work. "Sure am glad little miss is so mischievous." "Us too," Charade agreed, "but they're safe now." "Good. I've already placed the sock on the table. It's away from the others and in clear view of the security cameras. It should be easy to see who claims it." A loud and obnoxious voice sounded from the top of the staircase. "Rats," Claire muttered. "I was wishing she wouldn't show." "You and everyone else," Jenny admitted. "Oh well, life goes on." She lit the 2 small candles on the table. "Little Miss didn't show up for dinner, and as far as I know, she hasn't eaten a bit of food today." "Oh?" Paige said as she neared. "Is something wrong with that precious cat?" "Precious?" Madison barked. "She's one of a kind," Paige interrupted, finishing her daughter's sentence. "I've always wanted a Siamese." "But, Mom," Madison bellowed. "Is she sick?" Paige asked, again interrupting her daughter. Madison's face suddenly changed, and a knowing expression surfaced. Jenny glanced at her with suspicion. "I don't know," she replied. "She's usually here the second I begin cooking, and she hasn't touched her dry food either. That's not like her." Madison and Paige looked innocently at each other. "I hope she's okay," Madison said, her harsh, monotone voice sounding anything but sincere. "Maybe someone's been feeding her treats," Claire suggested. "There are a lot of people here." "Or she's been catching mice," Charlie added. "That is her job." "Maybe," Jenny agreed, but her expression didn't match that agreement. "We're ready as soon as—" Jenny's sentence was interrupted as the front door opened and several additional women entered the lodge. "This should be the last of them," she said, shy of Tally. She glanced at her watch. She said she might be a couple of minutes late when— "Tally!" Madison snarled. "I'm here," Tally greeted, carrying in a large cake. "I came in through the side door. This thing's heavier than it looks." Paige and Madison's expressions went blank. When they'd stopped by her office earlier that day, they didn't think to ask if she had any connections with Haven's Rest, and they certainly never considered she might know Jenny or Buck. I thought," Madison stuttered. "Wait a minute. You can't—" Paige elbowed her daughter before she could finish her statement. "Tally," Jenny greeted as she hugged her friend. "Then we're ready to begin." She swung her hand toward Charlie and Claire. "Tally, this is one of Auntie's relatives, Charlie O'Dare. He's Auntie's second cousin, and this is Claire, his wife." "It's nice to meet you," Charlie said as he stepped forward to greet her. "Yes," Claire added, also shaking Tally's hand. "And these are Auntie's other relatives, Paige Lancaster and her daughter Madison." Tally smiled at Paige and Madison, giving no indication she had ever met them. "It's nice to meet you both," she greeted. "Auntie was a wonderful person. Everyone loved her." Paige, usually as cool as a cucumber, stuttered at Tally's words. After several awkward seconds, she gathered herself together and stretched out her hand in greeting. "It's nice to meet you too," she said. "Tally, what a cute name." "But Mother," Madison barked. Paige glared at her daughter. "Madison," she said through clenched teeth, "greet the nice lady." Madison squinted but obeyed. "Hello," she said, although she didn't shake Tally's outstretched hand or even look at her. Instead, she turned her puzzled expression back to her mother. "Let's take a seat, dear," Paige instructed. She grabbed Madison's arm and jerked her away from the table. "Well, that was awkward," Jenny whispered to Buck. Buck placed his weight onto the other foot. You never know what you're going to get with those two. I guess, Jenny agreed. Her face was clouded with suspicion as she turned her focus toward the other guests. Welcome, everyone. Now that everybody's here, we can get started. She looked at Charlie. Would you lead us in prayer before we eat? Charlie stepped forward without hesitation, although his mind was still on his relative's strange behavior. Okay, Jenny said when the prayer ended. Tally, I'd appreciate it if you would get your plate first. We want you to have time to finish eating before you speak. Tally nodded and moved toward the food table. Just as she reached it, Madison shoved in front and grabbed a plate. I'm sorry, the selfish younger woman said, but I'm famished. I'm sure you understand. Tally's eyes widened, but she said nothing. Madison? Paige scolded. She don't mind, Mom. Madison responded in a voice that was even loud for her. She said so. Here. She passed Paige a plate. We're sitting together. Why don't you go ahead and get your food too? We're only 2 people. That way I won't be sitting alone. Paige took the plate as her cheeks reddened. It has been a long day, she replied while trying to excuse her daughter's behavior. She stepped back and politely ushered Tally in front. You go first. Oh, Mother, Madison said as she dumped so many noodles on her plate that they were spilling onto the floor. She understands. Johnny entered through a side door, covered in dirt and carrying an armful of freshly chopped and perfectly sized firewood. He placed it all beside the granite fireplace, then brushed the bark from his hands. After finishing at Ava's earlier in the day, he had offered to cut firewood to fill his time. Doing nothing would have driven him crazy. Madison was incredulous when she noticed him, and a dark cloud of anger overshadowed her. What is he still doing here? She demanded as she glared at Paige. I told him to leave last night. He has no right to be here. Bobby Joe wasn't his relative. Tell him to leave. Madison's voice carried above everyone else's, and in mere seconds all eyes were watching her. She was well versed in using this type of situation, so she let the tears flow. Mother, she demanded in her monotone voice, make him leave. I won't stay in the same building with an abusive, womanizing man. Make him leave. She grabbed a yeast roll from the table and threw it at him, and although her throw was wild, he caught it before it knocked over an antique vase. Paige beckoned to Charlie. I want him gone, she seethed, her voice nearly as loud as her daughter's. Now! Charlie didn't flinch. He's not going anywhere, Paige. Auntie built this ministry for people like him. How dare you? Paige thundered. You don't know him. I do. Madison should never have married him. She jabbed a finger in Johnny's direction. He's a lazy, womanizing worm, and you defend... Johnny stared at the scene in a daze. Over the past few years, he had lived through so many dramas created by Madison that his mind seemed numb. As Buck approached him, he gathered his senses and turned away from Charlie and Paige. I can't stay here, he said the moment Buck's hand rested on his shoulder. I can't stay here even a moment longer. I can't do it. Not with her. You don't have to, Buck interrupted, casually walking Johnny toward the same side door Callie entered only minutes earlier. He handed him a key to his cabin. Every person here knows what's going on. They've all been where you are. She thinks they believe her, but they don't. I've heard enough comments in the past 2 days to guarantee you that. My cabin is the one past Ava's. I'll gather your things from the upstairs room and bring them to you after the meeting. Shower and wear some of my clothes in the meantime. I promise it won't be much longer. I'll scoot up the reading of the will to tomorrow. Johnny scratched his head. I'm an attorney, Johnny, Buck informed him. Auntie's attorney. She requested the delay for a reason, but left its duration up to me. I'll explain it to you later, but please, don't leave. Auntie built Haven's Rest for victims. Victims or survivors, as Auntie called them, are far more than just people who have bruises or broken bones. Most of the women here will say the emotional and verbal abuse was the hardest to live with. Please, promise me you won't leave until we've had a chance to speak. That goes for Claire and me too, Charlie inserted, placing his hand on Johnny's other shoulder. When he saw Buck pull Johnny aside, he decided to follow. Please, I've known Paige and Madison for a long time, and we need to talk. Besides, if I'm not mistaken, we need a hard worker who knows how to use heavy equipment and pour concrete. Auntie kept a good amount of life insurance on herself, so this ministry is fixing to grow faster than ever. Buck and I were talking earlier, and we were hoping to offer you that job. But we can't if you run off, Buck added, so please stay. Johnny's head was spinning. He was so used to being considered a worthless waste of skin with no redeeming value that he wasn't sure how to respond when treated with care and respect. Even his boss, a man of great wealth who valued Johnny's work ethic and quality of work, often made comments devaluing him. Johnny? A soft voice spoke from behind him. He turned to see Ava standing in the doorway. Please, she begged, listen to them. Ed loved to humiliate me in front of crowds. It's what people like him and Madison do. Don't let her win. Of course, Charlie said. It would be better if you went upstairs, washed, came back down, and sat at the table with us. She's pushed you around for years, so why not stand up to her in front of the same crowd she belittled you in front of? Ava giggled. Wouldn't that be something to see? We'd all love it. Johnny? Buck said in a questioning manner. What do you think? Johnny considered their words. He had never been a coward and had usually been the guy to stand up against bullies. He wondered how his life had spiraled so out of control that one person could control him so thoroughly. Stay, Nahath encouraged. You must stand up for yourself like you do for others. It's time to end her reign of terror. Everyone in the small entryway remained silent as they waited for Johnny's verdict. Finally, he looked at Ava. Like vengeance, he said. She nodded. I, for one, would love it. I'm not normally vengeful, but I would love to see someone stand up to one of them. I just ran. I didn't dare stand up to Ed. This, she swung her hand indicating the building where they were standing. This would be the ideal place to stand up to one of their kind. It would encourage everyone here. Johnny took in a deep breath and glanced at Buck. I'll shower and be back in a few minutes. A huge smile crossed Nahath's angelic face. He had witnessed the damaged spirits of those who endured atrocious abuse for centuries, so it delighted him to see someone turn the tide in their own life. Attaboy, Johnny, he bragged. Attaboy. Good man, Charlie declared. I'll get you some food before Madison eats it all. Johnny laughed. That's more possible than you think. Charlie patted Johnny's shoulder as they headed in separate directions.